Hi, good to see you. I'm Graham Martin, I'm the Recruitment Guy. Today we're going to be talking about interview tips. My aim here is to give you some information that can help you perform better at the interview. Now for me, the biggest thing about an interview is preparation. I would urge you to prepare in detail before you actually go for the interview. So many times I hear of candidates rocking up, turning up for a job interview, not prepared. So these are going to help you ace that interview. The first thing is, the night before, get an early night, don't go out late, don't have a curry, don't smoke heavily, and for goodness sake, don't drink. I remember only too well interviewing somebody a couple of years ago who clearly had had a heavy night before, and it was rather off-putting. Now, I'm not saying that I'm prejudicial against people who had a lot of garlic, but you know what, it was kind of hard because I was only 3 foot away from them. So just think about who you're going to be sitting in front of. Now, again, get to bed early, you don't be nodding off during the interview. Take a hardback book with you to take notes. That's really important. The number of people that come to see me, professionals, managers, looking for jobs at 50, 60, 80,000 pounds and turn up without a notepad. If they can't be bothered, interested to take notes, do you really think that they're going to be bothered, interested in taking notes once they've got the job? And again, first impressions make so much difference. If you're going to go for a job, take note. It shows respect, because then you're going to go away and at least you've got the information there. Now, I suggest you actually engage with a receptionist or somebody, if you're invited in, take a seat, have a cup of coffee. Don't just sit there meek and mild, have a chat. But don't be over the top. If they're on the phone, don't interrupt them, but do engage. I have one client in particular who always used to keep the candidate waiting a little bit. He'd leave them downstairs, having a chat with the rest of the team, and then after the interview he'd ask the team what they thought about the candidate. Because often the candidate's behaviour at that first couple of minutes is key. How nervous, did they engage, did they get on with people, what was their eye contact like? Look at any literature in the reception area. And in fact, you should have done your research in advance. You should have checked out the internet the night before or a couple of days before, and you should have worked out exactly what you're going to say. But do look at the reception information. Upon meeting the interviewer, stand tall, don't slouch, but don't be like this. Put your hand out. Hi, my name's Graham Martin, thank you for seeing me. But please don't try and crush their hand. I've had that before. I don't know what the point is. People that want to show me how strong they are by breaking my hand. At the same time, don't have a wet fish handshake. I've had that as well. If you've got a clammy hand, just make sure you wipe it in advance, or you've got a towel or something, or a wet wipe. But just make sure, and it's worth practicing, that you've got a good, strong handshake. Engage in any small talk that's offered. Don't completely blank them. They may be nervous, they may not be professional interviewers themselves. So just think about a little bit of chat. How did you get here? Great, got the bus. Was your trip all right? Yes, it was fine. Let them engage with you and vice versa. If they offer you a drink, glass of water's fine. Don't do what somebody did recently. They asked for tea and they could have 2.5 sugars. And when they brought the tea over, they said, actually it's a bit too sweet, can I have another one? It didn't go down very well. Guess what? They didn't get the job. I'm glad to say that person wasn't briefed by me. It was a client telling me about something that came from the interview. I also knew somebody that ordered a coffee and spilt the coffee on the lap and it went everywhere. So just be careful where you put your water. Put it out of harm's way in case you tend to gesticulate, for example. And ask if you can take notes. In 23 years, nobody has ever said, you know what, I'd rather you don't take notes. I'd rather you just listen to me. Just say, do you mind if I take notes? It's professional, it's courteous. Because that is what they would do, wouldn't they, if they were going on a client meeting, if they were in a training session. I see a lot of you here today. Great, thank you, you're taking notes. Make sure you get the stuff. Now, some people say, I can remember it all. Well, you know what? You won't remember it all. But more importantly, if you're trying to remember, you're not engaging fully as you can, with the person that's interviewing you. Okay? If you try to remember details of the job, the commission structure, the overtime, the equipment they use, the structure of the business, how the company sits with other organisations, their competitors, no. Make notes. Now, be careful with body language. There's been a lot of rubbish written about body language, but we know some of the basics. Don't slouch. Don't sit back with your feet up on the table. Don't glare or try and stare the person out. And please, don't chew gum. Okay? Even now, I have people come to see me chewing gum. Now, you might think the demographic is the younger kids. It's not always the case. It's people my age, 40s and 50s, that will come in chewing gum. It's amazing. Can we do questions at the end? Is that okay? Thank you very much. And I would suggest that you have prepared in advance some responses to standard questions. Why are you leaving your current job? What do you like about your current role? What do you dislike? What's your relationship like with your manager? Describe your current role's duties on a daily basis. What are your strengths and weaknesses? Work these out in advance. Yeah, if we're going to go and, let's say, perform in front of an audience, we're going to sing, we're going to warm up and we're going to practice, aren't we, before? Mind you, you watch the X Factor, someone clearly just rock up. But the ones that are serious have actually practiced in advance. This is your chance. This is your X Factor opportunity. This is your Britain's Got Talent chance. Make sure that you know what you're being asked in advance, you respond. And also prepare some questions yourself. I always think it's a good idea to have a list of questions that you can ask your interviewer. Now, the chances are they're going to actually give you most of the answers. But at the end of the interview, they invariably say, so have you got any questions for me? Now, if you've got nothing, you look a bit daft. If they answer all the questions that you've got, I've got one takeaway for you now that you can use in any interview situation. Is what kind of person fits in best here? So write that down. What kind of person fits in best here? It's a lovely question because it gives the interviewer the chance to reflect and to tell you about the company values, what kind of people do well in the organisation, how people develop within that company. And your job as the interviewee is to sit and nod and agree. That's me. Because subconsciously then the interviewer is thinking, you know what? We're on the same wavelength. I like this person. The reality is that developing good interview technique is really worth doing because in my experience, the best person doesn't always get the job. It's the best prepared candidate, the one that comes across best, that actually lands it. And if you do well at an interview, if you think it's going well and you're enjoying it, and you think it's for you, you know what? Tell the interviewer, you know what? I'd really like to work here. If they give you the opportunity to look around the office, have a look around the warehouse. Can I see where I'd be working? Ask, where would I be working? Now, we don't want to appear too pushy, perhaps, unless we're in sales, where I'd probably say, when do I start? But if we're going for a clerical, administrative, or anything which relates to non-sales, just express your interest. The number of times we've heard companies ring an employment agency and say, we saw Debbie, we saw Fred, we thought they were great, but we didn't get any vibe from them. Do they like us? It's a bit like a date, really, isn't it? You know, you may not be going towards getting engaged or getting married or having kids, but it's kind of like saying, yes, I'd like to see you again. So there's that mutual connection you need to develop. So as a candidate, don't be shy, say, look, this is the kind of place I'd like to work. What's the next stage? Is there a second interview? Engage with people, have confidence. So there you go, that's my basic interview tips. Hope that helps, hope it gives you a bit of an edge. And if you want more information, do look on the website, www.therecruitmentguy.com. Bye for now.